So, first of all, it took me a really long time to get my bachelor's degree, and I wish it had taken me a shorter amount of time. But I love to tell the students that I meet who are kind of worried about going to school. Like, it took me 7 years total to from when I graduated high school to actually getting and graduating with my bachelor's degree. It took me 7 years, and most of that was because I not that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but there were times where I was worried that I would be wasting money on an education that I wasn't going to ever use. And there was a lot of money issues. When I stumbled upon that class, that's where it kind of took off. I fell in love with conservation. I was hell bent on going to a school. First of all, I was living in Washington State. And I knew I needed to be somewhere that was more similar to the environment to my home environment, to the Cenomized environment, because that's where I wanted to go eventually. So I applied to UH Manoa, and I applied to Chaminade also. But I ended up getting into UH Manoa, and I was all set to go after getting my AA at the community college. I was going to go to UH. And then I found out literally the day before I was supposed to get on the plane to go to Hawaii, that my financial aid wasn't going to cover everything. And so I was stuck.
Oh.
And so that was a bit of a roadblock. And so what ended up happening was it was just going to be too expensive in general because I wasn't going to get as much financial aid as I thought I was going to get. So I ended up taking another semester off from school. I stayed back in Washington to kind of figure out what I was going to do. I knew that I didn't want to stay in Washington anymore because I'd already been there for a few years. And I knew I wanted to be somewhere that was sunny, because the rain was really affecting my mood, and I needed to be somewhere that I was more motivated to live. And so I ended up researching good sustainability or conservation schools, and they were all super duper expensive. So I ended up I actually again stumbled upon Arizona State University, because they had the first ever school for sustainability. And so I ended up applying there, and I got in to the School of Sustainability. So I ended up just packing all my stuff and driving a U-Haul down to Arizona from Washington, because it was cheaper than flying all my stuff down there. So yeah, and I knew, and it was super crazy, but I ended up taking a whole semester off of school, applying to ASU. So all of that was a lot of life changes in 4 or 5 months time. So yeah, that's what ended up happening. And then that's where I ended up getting my bachelor's. So, I guess it worked out.
Just thinking about, I think maybe I want to go into this kind of science, technology, engineering, or math field. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm kind of worried about different kind of obstacles I may, come across or encounter. Do you have any kind of advice, general advice for students like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's really helped me is identifying a mentor who you can ask questions to, who you feel comfortable going with your questions and concerns. And I feel like if I had something or someone like that going through school, it would have alleviated a lot of stress. And kind of, it would have made me feel better about the decisions that I was making. And it wasn't until I was just about to graduate when I kind of found that my person for that, who I could bounce ideas off of. So I think it's important to find someone that you trust. It doesn't even have to be someone who is in that same field, but someone that you can bounce suggestions off of, and ask questions to. And like I said, it doesn't have to be in the same field, but it could be someone who seems, to maybe they had their own struggles too, and they could give you some advice. And I also think something that's really important, is to not, it sounds so cliche, but it's true, but don't be afraid to fail. You know, like if something seems too hard or like you know you're going to fail at it, I feel like those are the kind of situations that you grow from the most. And I mean, when I found out that I wasn't going to go to UH, I was so excited to go to UH. And literally the day before I was supposed to get on the plane to go to Hawaii, I found out that I wasn't going to be able to go. I felt terrible. I was like, that's it. I'm never going to college. I'm going to be stuck in rainy Washington for the rest of my life. But I knew that I needed to be somewhere that not only would be good for my future career as a conservationist, but somewhere where I would just be happy to be living. And I knew that if I couldn't go to Hawaii, if I couldn't be in that island setting anymore, I needed to at least have sunshine. You know, that was a huge thing. And even if Arizona didn't have the School for Sustainability, which ended up working out really well for me, I think I might have ended up somewhere in a similar environment, not necessarily in the desert, but somewhere that just, you know, had a little bit more sunshine, because I believe that, you know, your college experience is not determined by like how good of a college it is on paper or online. Like, I think your college experience is completely determined by like what you make of it. You can go to a school that maybe is smaller or doesn't have the best, I don't know, reputation. Cause I certainly did. Arizona State University doesn't have the best reputation. But it's definitely like who you meet and what you make of it and like the things you do while you're there. So I think don't be afraid of going somewhere that maybe isn't necessarily like, doesn't have like all the same accolades as like the places that your friends are going to. You know, I think that that shouldn't determine where you go, because you can be just as happy at a small university that not a lot of people have heard of than you would be going to like the most expensive university with like the greatest reputation.